I think since we've been talking about confrontation, like we talked about confrontation last week, I think we should talk about confronting all of your jealousy and how jealous you are.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
I thought we were just talking in general.
I'm just kidding.
Like, what the heck?
I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. Oh my gosh. But I do think we talk about some of those dynamics. I don't think we've ever really talked about together about how we've dealt with those things that make us or would make people feel insecure, feel self-conscious, jealous, all of that. And we're going to bring it into the room. We're going to look at it. We're going to talk about it. Welcome back.
Welcome back to the living room.
To the living room where we have real conversations for the spaces we're all living in. And the truth is, we're just ordinary people.
We're just ordinary people.
Yeah, shout out John Legend. But no, I think if we're being honest, babe, I think all of us can agree that to some extent, we all wrestle with insecurity,
For sure.
jealousy, self-consciousness, and all of those things that can drive a wedge between two people or a group of people with whatever context of relationship it is.
Yeah.
You know? And you and I, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think when I was younger, for sure, insecurity was something I really had to overcome. I think now that I'm more mature, it's easier for me to be like, that does not bother me.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, right? I was going to give you a runway, which was, over the last 25 years at least, this June, we're going to be right at 27 years of having been in relationship with each other, which is so awesome.
Yeah.
That's
a whole adult.
Well, I think it's an incredible privilege, right? To have been able to share that much time and that much life with one person, which I think
we still like each other.
Well, yeah, we like each other. We still respect each other. We still desire each other. Mm-hmm. We're still attracted to each other. Mm-hmm. I think more so today than we were when we were younger, because the depth of our intimacy, the depth of our honor, our respect, the depth of our awareness of each other and ourselves is so much more profound now, and I don't want to make it inappropriate because it's daylight outside. Maybe this is for later, but no, I think that the more I know about you, the more I'm attracted to you on multiple levels at this point of our lives. And I think it's just really cool. And I think we can talk about that in another conversation down the road. But today I think we you and I were kind of bouncing around the ideas of did we ever feel jealous? And did we ever have issues where we had to draw boundaries with the opposite sex and all of that? And so I think we should start at like our origin story. We got together really young.
Yeah. Right? What was it, like 17, 18?
Yeah, you were 17, I was 18.
And that freaks me out because now we have daughters. And to think that they would think that they would get a boyfriend at 17, 18, and that's the one that they would marry, just like freaks me out.
I don't know. Why did they let us do that? Why did they let us date significantly when we were younger?
Anyway.
And it's, it's hilarious, right? Because it's not like I was an extraordinary guy. We look back and you were a pretty remarkable girl.
Oh, that's sweet.
You had your head on right, you had vision. I was just out in these streets,
Yeah, but you were really good at perpetrating. Like I had no clue.
I think about what Diana means by perpetrating, I think I was able to situationally evolve to make people think that I was more than I was.
For sure.
And yeah, it was the gift of faith back then. Now it's, I use it with some wisdom and experience. No, but I think at the core of a lot of the negative emotions that people share with each other, right? Because remember, when you come into the living room, it's not just like one specific space. Now, Diana and I do lean heavy towards marriage dynamics, heavy towards relational dynamics, but I think that if you're someone who maybe you're going through some friction in your friend group, these things exist in friend group as well.
Yeah. Especially I think girlfriend groups, because as women, we are emotionally charged.
First of all, Finally, someone's willing to admit it. I want you to put that on paper. Like, I want you to say that again,
Yeah,
especially girls.
our depth of emotion is just so much greater than men.
By
Period.
depth of emotion, do you mean pettiness? And do you mean dramatics?
I mean, our depth of emotions go in multiple different levels. Now,
there's
I
different
could
labels for
say we could be a little more petty and dramatic when it comes to friends, because I think we just get attached to people so easily.
Yeah.
So whether it's a man, whether it's, your best friend, which is a girl, or your cousin, whatever, you just feel like, no, that's mine.
Yeah.
And you attach yourself sometimes very unhealthily to that person. And then that person has no clue that, you're now codependent on them. And, it becomes sticky for both of you.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? So like anything in our relationship that would have ended up with elements of jealousy or insecurity or we were just upset at each other. I think early in our relationship, it really had a core of what you just said, which is codependency.
Yeah.
Because we were so young and we just clung, we just like held on to each other.
Well, okay, we can be real. It really wasn't a we, it was more of a me thing. Because I don't ever remember you being codependent on me. I really do feel that was my struggle and my issue. I was just like little gum to you, like wherever you went.
Yeah, you were my little buddy.
Mm-hmm. And I just think whether I was there or not, like you were fine. I didn't, at first.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we all have our different things, right? Because like my thing wasn't codependency. My thing was autonomy. That was just a little
Toxic.
Yeah, maybe dysfunctional and toxic, where I just don't, when I was younger, I didn't think about anyone else. I just ran, and it's like, hey, I'm going this way. If you want to come. If you don't, do whatever you want.
That's what one of my things was, like, if I don't stick close to this guy, he's just going to leave me. I think that's why I'm like, oh no, I just have to be wherever you are. And in that, I lost myself.
Yeah. So let's unpack that a little bit, because I'm remembering for some reason it was like in a different space that I haven't really thought about this in a long time, but I'm remembering moments in I'm talking like young adult life. Like this is like 23, 24.
Early.
We were maybe just married. Cause that's really when our lives came together. We didn't cohabitate. The truth is I was talking to a guy, recently. I forgot who it was, but I was talking to a guy recently about dating and taking life seriously. And I told him, I think it was, Diana and I had a different type of relationship and different dynamics that, it's hard to give counsel from, because if you see like right now, if you're dating someone and you see your girlfriend every day, that's very different from me and you. And so I think that you and I were able to, first of all, have a longer relationship and a longer dating relationships, because we didn't see each other every day.
Right.
And then secondly, we didn't necessarily talk every day. And so I think that drove a little bit of the codependency also, where when we were together, everything was kind of like extreme and rushed, and we were trying to put a lot of things in very little time. And yeah, so I was thinking about how I remember going out to eat after church with like our friend group at the time. And I also remember like you sitting right next to me, like God forbid I go sit with someone else that's not you.
Yeah.
Like you would go nuclear. And now here's the thing. Diana is not the type of girl that's going to throw things and like, this is an old school R&B shout out, but she's not going to get Jasmine Sullivan on it. She's not going to, I'll bust the windows out your car. That's not Diana. But Diana will peer into your soul from across the room and be like, how dare you? I mean, like you could just see it, right? And so I remember either I didn't make sure you had a seat next to me. Like sometimes I would get there before you or whatever. Or we would sit together. This is funny, like, cause it happens like when we went out to eat, like it happened a lot. I remember we had a lot of moments like on the drive home after like I'm taking you home.
Because I thought you were inconsiderate, because you would, how I would never go somewhere and not make sure you have somewhere to sit.
Yeah. Well,
So to me, that was very inconsiderate.
yeah, in my head, it's like, hey, you're a big girl. Like, figure out where you're going to sit, you know?
Right. But at that time, love, like for me, I'm like, oh man, that's so much consideration that you would save a seat for me.
You're right.
And the fact that you didn't, I was like, this guy is so rude.
You're right. Now, I was slow in developing in being considerate and thoughtful and intentional. I won't like, I'll own that. You know, but I think the thing was what I'd like to give, you know, as we're sharing these type of stories is kind of give like a characteristic or like a definition to what is codependence, because I think that gets thrown around a lot, right? And it was like, for me, in my experience, now I'm not saying this is any kind of a clinical definition. This is just, you know, our relationship and our experience. But for me, it was you didn't feel secure unless we were attached.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like our relationship was secure unless we were attached. You felt like my loyalty to you was insecure.
Just out here getting exposed.
Unless we were attached, right? No, I mean, it just was, right? Like, and so it's like, if you're not right here by my side, and if you're not right here all the time, and if you're not only talking to me, because I remember us talking like that, right? Like God forbid, you know, because we would always go out with like a bunch of people, and I would talk to the person that's like next to us, you know, and more than I talk to you, and we'd be driving home, or I'd be driving you home afterwards, which is so funny because we would argue with the chaperone in the car. Because I don't know if we've ever shared this with you guys or not, but like every date we went on for almost 6 years, almost every date, we snuck out a couple times, but like
very rarely.
That was 20 years ago, so we can confess it now. We can declassify it. But very rarely. Yeah, we feared the Lord back then. But we would have like these intense, like these. Oh my, it was just so ridiculous. But like, it was the classic, like you're just like stewing, right? You're just like fuming, and you know, I'd be like, hey, you good? I'm fine, right? And we're driving home from the west side, and you're giving me, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm good, till like, and you would live, I would take the Lee Trevino exit. If you guys live in El Paso, you know that's about 35 minutes. And you'd give me, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm good, till about the Loma Land exit. And I'm like, all right, I stopped asking. And then you just turn and look at me like, and you hit me with the classic, like, I just think it's funny how you would rather talk to everyone but talk to me, you know? And this whole time I'm like,
it's so embarrassing.
You know, I'm like, bruh, I just gave you 35 minutes to talk to me.
Oh my gosh.
And you know, I think you and I were like the perfect match though, because like that kind of stuff didn't bother me at that much. You know, for a little bit, I thought it was kind of cute how crazy you are. There's this like Kanye West lyric off of his 808 and Heartbreaks album. On I think it's called RoboCop, the track. And whenever I hear it, I think of you. And I'm just like, shorty kind of crazy, but it turned me on, right? Like, and you're just enough, because there's still like there's some toxicity in me from like how I grew up, where it's just like, oh, be crazy so I know you love me type of thing. But do you remember that? Do you remember those moments?
Sure do. Well, right now it's super cringe because I mean, at that point, where obviously I was super underdeveloped.
Yeah.
But I remember that, like, I didn't want to stay in that space. Like, I always wanted to confront and talk. I just couldn't push past myself.
Okay, hold on, pause. Can you? I think that's such a deep perspective. I don't want you to zoom by it. Can you take a couple moments to explain what that means? Like how do you say it? You couldn't push past yourself, or you couldn't push past yourself?
Yeah, I couldn't push past myself, meaning my own pettiness, because I felt like, okay, I need to hold on to this. I need to show this emotion so he understands how strong I feel about this, instead of being mature enough and say, hey, you know what? When you do this, it makes me feel this. I wasn't emotional intelligent enough to go there.
Yeah.
I just thought, because we've never been taught, nobody ever talked to us about how to express your emotions. I just thought, if I hold on to this emotion, then he's going to see that it bothers me. Therefore, that should prompt a different type of interaction the next time. And it never did. It never did. So if you're out there and if you think giving him the silent treatment or giving him, you know, that pettiness of like, you should have, it's not going to work. Whether you're female or male, like, The only thing that has ever worked for us was actually confronting the situation in a calm manner, talk about what you want, give them expectations, and then hopefully from that, oh, you communicated expectations, he or she will then be able to fulfill. But I
Sure.
never gave you expectations. I
Sure.
was just like, it has to be all about me.
Yeah. Well, the truth is we never, even in our dating life, we never sat down and talked through expectations, talked through values, boundaries, etc. I mean, I think there was a degree of boundaries in terms of like, hey, we're not going to sin.
Yeah.
We're going to honor Jesus the best way we can. I think we had those boundaries, but in terms of like our emotional interactions, our emotional dependency on each other, there wasn't a lot of boundaries, and so it was just kind of like a free for all. And I remember in those moments, it I was picking up your signals, but to me it was like, again, because we were so like, I don't want to say we were jacked up, but we were just kind of like in our own blend of like just crazy
Immaturity.
and immaturity, that for me, like 23-year-old me would pick up those signals from you, and I'd be like, all right, she's still like, she's super into me.
That's
You know
so
what I mean? Like
weird.
the more you would get mad, the more I was like, yeah, she's with it. She's still about it, you know? Again, that was completely dysfunctional.
Well, that's good to know now, because I never thought that that's what you thought.
Oh, totally. That's
Then.
what I thought.
That makes no sense to me.
It
you
makes
know?
sense to me, man.
Yeah,
Like
and
this
it
chick
makes
is.
no sense to
I'm
me.
driving this chick crazy. That's how I know her. That's how I
my
know this is real.
gosh. Wow.
Which is the worst way.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the worst way. Because all we did was play these weird games. Right.
And we lost a lot of time.
Like we lost so much time, and we lost the ability to say what we meant and not just what we felt. Right. And I think that the more we learn to address that type of codependency, the more we learned independence. And so I think we learned independence and then mutual dependence on each other rather than a codependency
Right.
on each other. And I think that's two different things. I think a codependency, if we can just, again, I'm not saying I'm giving it like super formal definition, but I think a codependency was a thing where we never spoke about how we were going to lean on each other, what we were going to take from each other emotionally, spiritually, mentally, or even financially, honestly, right? But we just expected it.
Yeah.
Right? I just expect I expect to get this from you. Yeah. And when I didn't get it, it became tense, and it became heated, all of that.
Which is so like toxic, because when you do get into a marriage relationship, it's about serving one another.
Right.
And not just taking.
Right.
And I think after a couple of years, we finally figured that out. Like, oh shoot, like I'm not just here to take everything from you, but I'm here to serve you. I'm here to see you as a human, not just as a person who's supposed to fulfill my needs.
Right. I think that's such an incredible way of saying it. I'm here to see you as a human, not just as a resource. Right. I'm not just as a solution to my
whims, my problems.
Right. To the places where I'm empty, to the places where I'm broken. The truth is, I could never do that for you. And over the years, you and I we've learned that through some hard lessons, some hard knocks, some really intense interactions, some moments of, we've had therapy to a degree. Our pastor is also a licensed professional counselor, and so he's been able to speak into our lives over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But I think that rather than being codependent, where we're just taking from each other and there's no expectation, and then there's no courtesy in codependency, right? At least a thank you. I think codependency, maybe you're asking yourself, oh my gosh, am I codependent on my friends? Am I codependent with the person I'm dating or the person I'm married to? Am I codependent on my parents and my family? Right? Maybe even coworkers, because that can happen. I think if you do an inventory, and if you look at, because you said a really strong word like my whims, right? When I hear you say whims, what it strikes for me is a root of entitlement, right?
I expect this
right. You're
from
just
you.
supposed to do this for me.
This is what you're supposed to do for me, but I've never told you.
Right.
But this is what you are in my life.
Right. And I do think there are realities where those expectations can be had,
Yep.
but they cannot be had without an agreement.
Without a mutual agreement, not your own agreement. Because I know there's two people and you feel like I agreed with myself and myself. But this comes with the other person that you want to bring into your life. You have to agree with them.
That's brilliant. You said, I agree with myself, by myself, that you're supposed to do this for me, right? To give it biblical context, one of my favorite scriptures in terms of relationship building is Amos 3:3. The prophet Amos in the Old Testament says this: how can two people walk together if they don't agree? Right? We cannot walk with each other if we don't agree with each other. The best we can do is one drags the other one, right?
I definitely felt dragged at the beginning of our marriage, for sure.
Yeah, and ditto, right? I think we were dragging each other into our entitlements or our lack of consideration, because that's how I would drag you, right? I just was entitled to, like, you're supposed to ride, like you're here, bro. You said I do, like you're supposed to ride with me, and wherever I go, you're just gonna be there, and you're a support staff. Like, we'll talk about that another day, where it's not behind every great man there's a great woman. It's right next to him, type thing. And I think where it shifted for you and I was when we started sitting down and saying, hey, this is what I expect. Are you willing to do this? Right.
We started having consideration with one another.
That's a good word.
And we started viewing each other as not just my husband or my partner, but like as a child of God. Like, you're God's child, and I should respect you as such, and you should respect me as such.
Yeah.
And I think that brought a different humility towards one another,
Absolutely.
and a different consideration with one another, and not just like, not just like a puppy. Like, I'm not a puppy. I'm not just gonna be, just everywhere where you are.
Yeah.
Like, what was very healthy for both of us was to have different relationships.
Sure.
Not just each other.
Sure.
When you just have each other, you're going to wear yourselves out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It sounds romantic.
It sounds good. It's not.
It sounds romantic, and it sounds fun, but man, it gets old. Not old, but like, you get tired of it.
Well, there's only so much I can tell you, and there's only so much you can tell me. Like, if we're together 24/7, nothing else happens. There's no stories. There's nothing to talk about.
Sure.
So I think what was healthy for us, where at first I would push against, like, oh, well, why do you have to go with the guys, and why do you have to do this? And I then understood, wait a minute, I need my own friends. I need my own community just to get away from you for a little bit, have a fresh perspective, laugh, just talk about girl stuff, and then come back. Now I'm refreshed.
Yeah.
I can have a different conversation with you, because Cruz loves the tea. So anytime that I can come in with fun stories, you're all about it. You're all ears.
I am.
You
I am
really
ears.
are.
I don't need to know, but I like to know. I enjoy knowing. You make such a wonderful point, babe. I think that's where you and I really started showing our maturity, when we started feeling comfortable and confident with other relationships, right? Now, I think there should be something that is said in terms of other relationships. They're relationships that we both agree on. They're relationships that I'm looking to complement my life, not replace you in my life, right?
Sure.
Because there's no replacing you at all if you're my wife. Right now I am going to shift a little bit to the context of marriage. There is no replacing you, right? So I was looking to supplement, right? So sometimes, like you said, I needed more testosterone, right? I needed more masculine energy, and you can't give that to me, right? You just don't have the nature.
And I mean, one prime example, like, we love to work out, but we will not work out together.
Now,
we could be at the gym at the same time, but we don't have to work out together, and that's okay.
I think it's impossible for us to work out together. We're just
we tried. We would just come out fighting.
But I think as you're processing this, and especially if you're a husband and wife, right? If you're in a marriage context, as you're processing this, there is no replacing who your wife is, though. And that's where you have to be really careful, right? So, like, all of my supplemental relationships are men in my life. I don't have any significant female relationships
you shouldn't.
in my life that you, first of all, that you aren't aware of. That's all bad. If I had any type of female interaction that you didn't know, I have a lot of girls on my staff, but I think we do a good job where we have good boundaries where if I need to message the girls, either I do it in our professional platform for messaging, or if I need to text the girls, I'll text them with you included.
Yeah.
I do my best with that. Sometimes I don't, but you have access to my phone, all of that. But
I do want to pause there because I do think that's a good boundary. Like if your husband or your wife, whatever that may be, when it comes to like work situations, yes, I always have access to your phone, but then there's some times where I'm like, hey, you know what? Make sure you tag me when you talk to this person. And that's because I do believe that the Lord gives us discernment.
Yeah.
And if your wife or your husband is asking you to do something, like it shouldn't bother you.
yeah,
Because if there's nothing going on, you should be like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Like, why are you upset?
Yeah.
And you've always done that for me. And sometimes you will ask why. And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I should be in these conversations. I don't even talk. I will not make a peep. I'm just getting those messages. And it's just made clear that this is a professional setting.
yeah, and even if it's not a professional setting, this is our personal boundary. This is how I'm going to honor my wife in the context of my relationships. And I don't think that's codependence.
No.
I think that's honor, and I think that's consideration. And honestly,
And
I just
that's
think that's
wisdom.
common. Yeah, as I was going to say, common sense and wisdom.
That's wisdom. I
Yeah.
do that the same. I counsel a lot of young adults, and we're about the same age, And so I always put you on there. Sometimes they're asking me because they want a female perspective, and that's fine.
Sure.
But I just add you on there, and again, you don't respond. Usually, you're just on there just so you know who I'm speaking with.
Yeah. No, I like it. Yeah. So I don't think that there's anything that look, I'm just going to say it bluntly. I don't think it'll end well if there are independent relationships with the opposite gender, especially if you're in a committed relationship.
Yeah,
right?
we've never seen it end well. Like we've done a lot of counselings where it's like, oh, it just started out, we were just friends. And it's always going to start off as we're just friends. But the thing is, you will develop feelings no matter what the person looks like. Why? Because they're not with you 24/7. So you only get to see their beautiful side, their ray of sunshine. And they're always a fresh air because they're not who you're with.
That's what I was going to say.
mean,
it's just different.
Yeah, marriage I believe, is a mirror of who you are and your intentions.
That's a good word.
So you're not going to like your wife or your husband because you're literally looking at yourself and what you have to work on.
Wait, you just said you're not going to like your husband or your wife because you're seeing a version of yourself.
Yeah.
That's deep. Whoa. I've never heard anyone say that. What, okay, explain that to me a little bit more.
I really think that the Lord created marriage for us to like, quote unquote, disciple one another. You will see the best and the worst in me. And same for you. Are we in a space to talk to that? Because you're supposed to help me develop to the best I can be. And the same for you. Now, when we come out of this covenant and you talk to some random, that random is just going to tell you all your beautiful qualities. Yeah. Now, when you're in a marriage covenant, you have to be okay with like, hey, you could do this better. Or the Lord is calling you, to do this. And conviction comes to your spirit and to your heart. And sometimes if you don't want to deal with it, then you're going to go to somebody else.
Wow.
For affirmation.
That's strong, babe.
And then all of a sudden you're enamored by somebody else's wonderfulness towards you because you're unwilling to face what you really are.
You know what's incredible about what you're saying is codependence is, here's how I'm hearing it. Codependence says, I want to take and I want you to give me what you have. And I want to take it from you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you walk this out correctly, you don't walk it out in codependence, you walk it out in covenant. And codependence takes, covenant serves.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to serve you so that the best version of you can emerge. Now, the way I want to serve you is by giving you the best version of me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. It's something that you and I have done very intentionally. I would say like the last 5 to 7 years of our marriage where we've latched onto this, There's a scripture where St. Paul writes in Romans 15 where he says, listen, those of you who are strong, carry the ones who are weak and not please themselves, right? Because strength is for service, not for status. And we've come to terms that it's not codependence. The seasons where you carry me is not codependence, it's covenant.
And covering.
Right. The seasons where you cover me, because you catch my blind spots all the time. And you carry my, you carry my weaknesses all the time. Your gift set, your disposition is very different from mine. And we don't complete each other, but we do complement each other really well. And vice versa. There are seasons where I carry you and I cover you. And it's beautiful because in allowing yourself to be carried and covered, there's a humility, there's a submission, and that's where covenant is met. It's not just the entitlement or the indulgence of codependency where I want to take what I believe I want versus I'm going to be carried and covered by what God has given me and the person that's in front of me, right? And I think that's absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And you only find that in this type of a covenant. You can't, I think I'm not going to go too heavy down this path, and maybe we can talk about faithfulness and where does infidelity begin, that type of thing. We've never had that kind of a story, you and I, we've never had that moment, but we've walked with a lot of people. But I really do think that there's a common denominator with all of those outcomes that are negative and detrimental to a relationship of intimacy and love. It's, again, a codependency. I want what I want, and I'm going to take it from whomever I can take it from. And especially when my significant other can't give it to me.
Exactly.
And so I think when you choose to walk in humility, in submission, when you choose to walk in confidence and strength and gratitude, right? Be grateful for the person, for your person, for the person you have. It leads to some really beautiful, beautiful outcomes.
Amen.
As we end this conversation today, one of the things that I'm not grateful for is that you always choose to dress the way I dress.
Wow.
Always.
Just for the record,
they can't see, but they can't. Like, move the pillow real quick. Cause look,
just for the record, I got dressed first.
Listen,
just for the record, we couldn't have planned this even if we tried. Who has butter yellow pants?
Look at this codependency. 21 years later, and you still want to be so close to me that when you hug me, we can't see where I end and you begin. We're just like
the people know. The people know that I get ready first.
Listen, this was total coincidence today.
Because it's actually Cruz's worst nightmare to match. I remember when we were just married, if we would come out looking the same, like in the same colors, you would always go back and change.
I would.
It's like his worst nightmare.
And I don't know why.
And now we have it on camera. I love it.
It happened completely by accident. And look, to your credit, you did get dressed first. I walked out of our room and I saw you and I was like, what the heck?
Hey, but maturity in you didn't change.
I didn't.
Look at you. Yeah. You're not ashamed of me.
I look like my favorite person.
It's a good talk.
Yeah, we'll be dressed like each other and codependent all day today. Good talk, baby. I love you. I love you. Hey, fam, thanks for joining us in the living room for another conversation. Hopefully this is blessing you and helping you. And our heart always is, and our prayer is that this content helps you move forward faster and get further faster than we did, and that it just brings life to whatever space you're living in. Listen, let us know. First of all, let us know who wore it better first, okay? Let us know who wore it better.
Wow.
Put it in the comments. But seriously, let us know. It blesses us so much. You hear us say this every week. It blesses us so much when people leave us comments.
Let us know what you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
And we want to hear about that. Button.
Yeah. I say this every single week. But a lot of people who are listening to us and joining us and watching us in the living room and joining us here, they don't subscribe. So listen, hit that subscribe button. It helps this content. The truth is this is how you can help us, right? Help us get this content to more people who need to be in the living room with us, right? So I want to say thank you for those of you who have subscribed. Thank you for being a part of this. We're grateful for you. Turn on the bell notifications so that you know whenever we drop every week. And hit us up on DM at either in the comments here or on Instagram. Our Instagram and social media information is in the description of the video. Let us know how this is helping you. Let us know how this is blessing you. We can't wait to see you next week in the living room. Love y'all. Peace.